But we don't show prep, so so he had no idea.
I just barely make it in.
I'm sure you can tell, but we don't show.
I mean, let's put the cards down on the table here.
Miami Hurricanes, yeah. You know the name already. It's Mercy, ha ha. It's a 6-Rig Kane show. Can't forget the name though. Got Jazz, Blue, Vision, DJ break the game code. Ain't no changing them, ain't no breaking them. Real put alive from the Hard Rock Stadium. Ball 14 for the orange and green. We see the 6-Rig champs. It's more than a dream. This is life on the field. Beyond 100 yards, a hurricane that's never still put a damage to your squad. The 6-Rig Kane show. The 6-Rig Kane show. The 6 Rings Kane show. You know.
What's wrong with us? Seriously.
What's wrong with us? We're Miami Hurricanes fans.
Welcome to the 6 Rings Kane Show, a show dedicated to Miami Hurricane sports, featuring the legendary Larry Bluestein, Jazz Santana, Vish, and Danny Gillette. Let's go Canes.
Yes, sir.
Wow, like an hour opening. That's pretty decent.
I know, I like that.
Yeah, we have to take. Unfortunately, we have to take Frank Ponce off of the show.
This time I just stuck to the host. I'm like, we'll be here. We're gonna gut it out.
Yeah. Hey, out of everything, I remembered seeing Lawrence Cager. I said, "What the heck is he doing on there?"
It was a countdown. The jersey numbers. You didn't get that? That's the countdown now. Instead of doing the stream.
I saw that.
Okay.
18, 17.
Yeah. Was there?
Didn't get much by me. No.
I mean, what was the? It was him or Diedrich Epps. But,
or Tate Martell. You're gonna put Tate Martell.
Oh my god. The tough one was 20 because I had Ed Reed and Bernie, and it's like, oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, you got. I mean, it's got to be.
The easy one was what 10?
Yeah, they retired
Only
Myra's
one.
number. Yeah, it's the only one. I did get like a black and white in there.
Yeah,
George Myra.
10, 11 is pretty easy too. I think. Right?
Yeah, 16 was rough.
Was it really? Who'd you have?
You didn't use Frank Costa at 11?
Yeah, right. Wait, who's 16?
I used Sievers.
Oh yeah.
But it was we have not had that many players wear 16. Period. And in terms of impact, nothing much.
Turns out you got a pretty damn good one there with.
Sievers. Yeah, I know, but it took me a while to find. I was like, oh yeah, Sievers.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. Man. Yeah, we're back. The whole crew is together here tonight. As listen, I mean,
game month.
We got through it, man. We got through it because summer has been long, spring has been long. Oh my goodness!
I mean, the season ended like in November, so like it has been
9 months in between the irrelevant.
It's been a journey.
But
it's been a journey we've overcome.
Football's back. Fall camp has started up, and I couldn't be happier, man, because we actually get to talk some football, some really good stuff today and moving forward. We only got 4 more Mondays before Miami of Ohio comes in here to play on a Friday night. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We've got fall camp, as I mentioned before. Some quick news on scheduling for 2024 with Notre Dame backing out because they got soft and they said, no, we need 1 more year to prepare for these guys. So so that home and home has changed a little bit. I guess it got pushed back a year. No big deal there. But we've also got Obviously, some conference realignment stuff that's going down. Who the hell knows what's going to happen there with the ACC? I know there's some meetings going on, and how that's all going to play out for not only the Hurricanes but some of the other teams like Florida State, Clemson, Virginia Tech, some of the better, more prestigious teams in the ACC moving on to some of the other conferences. But most importantly, it's fall camp has arrived, and we will give you a breakdown of our two deep, what we think personally, each of us, what the two deep should be on defense, or what it looks like it's going to be, or what we want it to be, whatever the case is. It's actually what we want it to be, not what we think it'll be, what we want it to be. We'll kind of break down that on defense, and and kind of throw in some different things there. I know I mentioned the whole thing with Notre Dame, kind of moving our home and home with them to 2025 and 2026. And 2024, I guess it was too many out of conference games that were scheduled. So
I think we actually caused it. I think.
Yeah, that's what I
we overscheduled. Yeah.
So we cleared that up. So that means 2024, you don't have to play away at South Bend and at Gainesville. So, I mean, truth is that's kind of good for us, right? Now it's Florida, Florida A&M, USF, and I forgot the third one, Ball State. So those are your out-of-conference games next year, and then we kind of hit the ground. We hit it hard on conference games. But speaking of conference games, who the hell knows what conference we're going to be playing in? I mean, gosh, with all this shit that's going on, excuse me, I said shit, but whatever, it is what it is. I'm excited, man. Football.
You work that stuff out before the season starts, Jazz. Just work through it. By the time, game week rolls around, you'll be ready to go.
I think YouTube, excuse me, I think YouTube lets us get away with certain things, as long as you don't throw an F-bomb in there. I think we'll be okay, but minimize it. Bad jazz, my bad. Conference realignment. I want to start off with you, Vish, because I know you read up on some of this stuff, and I know that it's, a lot of people say it's an impossibility for Miami or any of some other schools to get out of this contract with the ACC. It's looking more and more like a lot of these schools are potentially making their way out, and Miami doesn't want to get left behind, demonetized.
Trust me, if we survive Lance Leggett, we can survive anything. Yeah. That was just a stream of profanity. That is true. For like 50 minutes straight, with the word peanut interlaced every once in a while.
Shout out to Taste One. All right.
We did enough advertising for Taste One on that show, man.
We did for about 3 years. But your thoughts on this whole, conference fiasco that's going on now? I know the Big 12 is kind of shot. The Pac-12 has 4 teams left in it. The Big 10 is gearing up to bring in some more teams. The SEC is also. This is crazy. It's all over the place. Where does Miami stand in your eyes? What you think will happen? And something's got to happen. I think that eventually they're going to find a way to get out of this, just like FSU and Clemson and some of these other schools. They may not be doing it out in the open like FSU is when they're asking for money from God knows who. But where do you see Miami ending up with this whole conference realignment fiasco that's going on?
Well, I think the first thing is just to give you the numbers. There's now going to be, this is next year really, there's going to be 18 teams in the Big 10, 16 in the Big 12, and 16 in the SEC, and the ACC is still at 14. These teams are kind of stuck because they gave away their grant of rights. So just to be clear, there's two things. There's the TV contract and there's the grant of rights. The TV contract can be renegotiated. They can try to get more money out of ESPN or whatever. The grant of rights, they have signed their home game rights away to the conference all the way through 2036. So the ACC owns their home rights, period. Other schools have tried to challenge that in the past. No one's ever been able to break a grant of rights contract. And all these conferences have them. Now, the thing is, the Pac-12 is up after the season. That's why it's a free-for-all. No one's paying anything. Because It's over. It's expiring. And that's why the whole thing was, are they going to sign on to the new deal, which would have also then they would have signed a grant of rights to the Pac-12 and then stayed there. And then, that was what was going on at the end of last week. And then they ended up jumping ship. But as a more relevant example is OU in Texas to lead the Big 12 and go to the SEC. They paid $50 million each to get out of 1 year of their grant of rights. So with the Big 12, and the ACC contract is written very similar to that. So it's going to be tough. Now, the ways out of this are you get enough members to just dissolve the conference.
Right.
Because if the conference doesn't exist, then no one owns the rights. And that's tough just because I think it's worth understanding where the ACC is here. It's SEC and Big 10 up top, ACC third, Big 12 fourth. The only reason the Big 12 gets pats on the back is everyone thought it would die.
Right.
If you look at the top program there after this year, when Texas and OU leave, what even is it in the Big 12? There's not a single team in there you would want to take onto the ACC. So the ACC is in a weird position where they do have Miami and Clemson and Florida State and North Carolina, these brands that are locked into an underpaying contract. So it's not a situation where they just, let's just expand. Like the Big 12 is just adding whatever they can to increase their footprint. And, adding Arizona does a lot for them. Adding Arizona State does a lot for them. Like they added UCF. Like we would never add UCF to the ACC. So I think, they're in a tough spot where teams like Florida State and Clemson, they want that SEC Big 10 money. So is Miami. There's no way for the ACC to get there. But the ACC is not so bad off that they just need to add crap. So they're kind of in this weird middle ground. And I think the problem with that is, other than the schools I mentioned and then maybe Virginia Tech on top of that, the rest of the conference will never make this much money if it dissolves. They'll end up in the Big 12 or the AAC or something and be making a lot less money. So it's kind of a rock and a hard place because like Miami, FSU, Clemson, North Carolina, they could make more money.
Right.
Most of the teams would make less money, though. Yeah. So they need to figure out a way to get them paid. And that's what the backroom dealing probably is. It's because if you can get half the conference, get 8 members to vote to dissolve it, it'll go. And so they're like, all right, how do we get 4 more schools paid?
And you might get those.
You might be able to do it. You might be able to do it, yeah.
That's probably the only way. Now, if you had your choice of where Miami would go, where it would make the most sense, because I know a lot of people think, they shout SEC right off the bat, right? Oh yeah, we want. Where do you think they make the most sense to go? Forget about geographically. It's a crap show, anyways, right? It's a bleak show, so it doesn't matter there at this point. I think it's more about where they make sense as a school to go. What do you think, Vish? And I'll go around the horn on this one.
It's Big 10 makes a lot more sense to me. Miami's a city school. A lot more of the schools in the Big 10 are in cities. They're more urbanized. Because even Ann Arbor's a Detroit suburb. Columbus is a city. And some of these SEC schools are like in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
They're like
the only one.
Right. And so when you start talking about, you mentioned the distance, some of the travel strains, it is very easy to hop a plane from here right now to Pittsburgh and play a game and come back, or even have like the non-revenue sports that everyone's talking about, which is True the Gang Screwed. It's very easy for our volleyball team to fly a commercial flight to Pittsburgh and play. Getting to Oxford, Mississippi is a nightmare. Right. And so I think one of the things you have to realize is, for us, we're so isolated from the rest of the major conference schools, we're getting on a plane pretty much anyway. Some of these other schools, it makes a big difference.
Right.
When they can bus to their rival and now they have to get on a plane, that makes a big difference. We're already doing a lot of that, so I'm less concerned with geography. Like, where are we? Maybe if it's a weekend something, if you're playing UF, you might take a bus. Otherwise, we're flying everywhere. Like, even when we play Florida State, we're taking planes. It's too long to drive. So to me, that distance doesn't matter. It's more accessibility. And I think the Big 10 schools appear to be more accessible.
That makes sense.
And you get some cool cross country stuff occasionally, like you play the LA schools and all that, which is good exposure for our program.
Right. That's true. DJ, for me, it's also about from an academic perspective. I think the Big 10 is a little more prestigious as well academically. So that kind of makes sense considering Miami is, considered a pretty good academic school also.
Right, yeah.
Your thoughts are, I know you like Big 10 football, so that would be beautiful for you, huh?
That would be. And, the thing about it, too, is that when you look at what the Big 10 or whatever it's going to be called in the near future is now, they have a West Coast footprint with UCLA, USC, Oregon, and Washington. They obviously have the Midwest footprint like the Wisconsin, Northwestern, Nebraska, Minnesota, all that. Then they have the East Coast, footprint with Penn State, Rutgers, and Maryland. Adding Miami would at least give them a footprint in the southeastern part of the country. And Vish was talking about expanding and making a bigger presence within a conference. I mean, adding Miami would make the most sense in terms of not geographically, but in terms of establishing your dominance conference-wise. And I think just from a football perspective, the rivalries and the opportunity to go out west to play USC, the opportunity to play some of these Midwest schools and kind of get a form of Midwest football, even though that's not really Miami's forte right now. I think it would make the most sense in terms of some of these schools like Michigan as a legacy name. Nebraska at one point was a strong program, so that type of name recognition and branding would also make sense for Miami in terms of the schools that they are grouped with in the Big Ten. Penn State even as well.
Yeah, that's true. Mohammed, we'll answer that question. I'll get Vish to answer that question in a second, but I want to see, are we going 4 for 4 on that, Blue? Or are you thinking Miami to the Big Ten is where you think that they, I guess, fit the best?
Makes the most sense, obviously. And, in other sports like basketball, definitely give them an opportunity. In baseball, though, could dominate in baseball. I don't think they're dominating the SEC. So, but the SEC, like you said, Vish, I mean, you got one school, and that's Vandy. It's in Nashville. Other than that, you have Athens, and it's not a suburb of Atlanta. It's 62 miles. So, and then you got Gainesville, one horse town, Mississippi State, one horse town. But yeah, see, and it's going to give them a presence in the Northeast with Penn State, Maryland, and Rutgers, because they do a lot of recruiting. Miami used to do, in that area in the Atlantic, and now they'll get it back because, they lost that because when they were like in the Big East, you had all those Boston colleges, but now I think that it's a no-brainer for them to go in the Big Ten. You get that Chicago hub that they've done so well in, over the years, and I think it makes the most sense. And just a shame that they're taking. Everything comes down to money and the fact that the Pac-12 had no TV contract. That killed them.
Yeah.
That killed them. And that was it.
I think that was a hell of a conference before they.
If Oklahoma and Texas would have come into the Pac-10 or Pac-12, things might have been different.
Right.
Because you would have that Dallas market, you would have that Oklahoma market and stuff, but and then you would have, because of Texas money, you might have lured a TV contract. But the Big 12 still has a crappy TV contract, but at least they have one, it's
right, Bloom. That's what I was saying earlier. The Big 12 is getting patted on the back for surviving. The ACC would not want that TV contract. It's worse than theirs. The problem is the ACC is trying to compete with SEC and Big 10, and they can't do that now. And so they're stuck in the middle, where the Big 12 has kind of accepted their role as fourth in line here, picked up the scraps from the Pac-10 after.
Right.
The Big 10's like, we want those 4, and then they took the rest. Right. I mean, they know they've kind of – the ACC wants to – and not just the schools, the conference themselves wants to project as we're there with the SEC and Big 10, and they're just not. Right. And from a revenue standpoint, some of the teams are, though. That's kind of the interesting thing. Some of the teams, reputation-wise, programs are. They're some of the biggest programs in college football and college basketball are in the ACC still. You can't say that really about the Big 12 anymore from a football standpoint. You can from basketball because they have Kansas and they've added Arizona. But from a football standpoint, they got nothing that you would say these are elite programs. But that's just they found that's their way to survive. Stick together as like a second tier Power 5 or Power 4, I guess now.
So what Vish, real quick, what's the only way? I mean, dissolve, right?
There's no way out of the grant of rights. So there's two things. There's a TV contract, which is signed through 2036, and there's the grant of rights, which is also signed through 2036. But those are independent. So in theory, if the ACC expands that does trigger a renegotiation period where they can go back to ESPN and try to renegotiate the contract.
Or dissolution, right?
Well, no, dissolution they can do whenever if they get enough members to vote. But they can go renegotiate they can get out of the TV contract by expanding, renegotiating. No one can get out of the grant of rights.
Right.
And no one's ever been able to do that. This is what I was talking about earlier. Texas and OU paid $50 million apiece to get out of 1 year. There's 13 years on. The $700 million number he's talking about is just prorating that out. If you think about roughly that, and then also to break the TV contract part of it's about 120 million. Gotcha. That there's a buyout. They do a calculation on the revenue, and that's how they get that value. So that one they kind of know is about 120 million to break the TV contract.
Gotcha.
But then they still don't own their rights. They sold them to the ACC until 2036.
Right.
So you can leave the conference and get out of your TV contract. You can't. The ACC still gets to broadcast your home games. So that doesn't really work.
All right. Enough money talk and all this stuff. We'll see what happens. It'll happen soon. I'm sure we'll hear something soon. There's a lot of meetings going on.
Thanks,
now.
Melissa.
So yeah. Happy belated to Blue. If you didn't say happy birthday by now, then
I was gonna say
I don't know what to tell you. All right.
I'm on my next birthday already.
Fall camp, baby. Listen, football is back. Like, football is in full swing. They're out there in pads. They're out there in shells.
Jazz is excited when he throws a baby in there. Because that's when he's fired up.
I'm hyped up. I've been seeing some videos. I've been hearing some talk. Blue, what does fall camp, how does it feel that football's back? Fall camp is back. The Hurricanes are – look, this is a year where none of us, I don't think any of us here are kind of getting our hopes too high. There's always cautious optimism, right? I mean, we want to see this team do good. So at the end of the day, the fandom is going to kick in a little bit, and we're going to be like, all right, 9 games. All right. Yeah, we got it. But, the truth is that this is still a team that's growing. I mean, the roster obviously has turned over so much, and there's a lot of new players. And the roster, if you look at it, it's better. Yeah, on paper, it looks good. The roster looks good. There's depth at certain positions now. We've got potentially the best, safeties, defensive backs in the country, which is great. All-American. We've got Leonard Taylor, who's projected in the first round. Javion Cohen, who's projected as one of the top offensive linemen in the country. You got Matt Lee as well, a leader there. You've got TVD back and healthy. You've got wide receivers now. You got Tyler Harrow, who is faster than the Flash. You've got all these guys. You've got the number 6 or 5 recruiting class in the country last year. You got all these things that are starting to get a little hyped up, which is great. But at the end of the day, like fall camp, this is an opportunity for them to start gelling, to start getting together, and then they got to show it on the field at the end of the day, right? That's the most important thing, is we can't get too hyped up. A lot of people talk about recruiting. Well, recruiting's kind of slow right now, and they're only getting 3 stars. Well, number one, they went 5-7 last year, number one. Number two, it's only August. And number 3, win some football games. Once you win some football games, that could change. Fall camp, Blue, what have you heard so far, if anything? What are you excited about in fall camp?
More competition at different positions. And, this year it's that nothing given type of thing. And last year, not so much. Thing that I'm waiting is to be sitting next to you in the first game at halftime and not to look at you and say, oh, no, not this crap again.
It's not going to happen. No.
That's all I'm thinking.
I was very careful with the intro to make sure there was you can't tell when the clips are from, so I don't have to recut it next year, because last year had you guys in the press box with the Middle Tennessee logo float behind it for the free game.
No.
Because all I remember in the Southern Mississippi game and in the Middle Tennessee game is flashing back to Vish's 11-win stuff. And I'm thinking, oh, my gosh. I'll never do that again.
You make 1 or 100 bad predictions, and people just throw it back in your face.
Well, because it's compounded. Because if they would have went to a bowl game, no one would have. But the very fact that you had to sit there and watch Eastern Illinois and New Mexico State go to bowl games, that was painful. But
University of Connecticut.
Huh?
UConn went.
Yeah. Yep. UConn went for the first time since 2015, and that added insult to injury too. Honestly.
Did
Honestly, it would have been.
UMass Amherst go and we didn't go? What happened?
No, but they're so bad. They are so bad.
It would have been more injurious to have to watch that team play again. Like I was good, not having to watch that team play again.
To answer your question, I just think there's more competition this year, more depth going in, and I just believe that there's no way we'll use a walk-on running back.
No, I mean, listen, this year, if we use one, then we are, I mean, throw in the towel, man. Throw in the towel because there's too much talent at running back. It's too deep right now for any of that noise. If Terrell Walden gets a snap, then you know there's a problem. Listen, nothing against Terrell Walden, right? Like, I mean,
he's still there.
He's still there. Terrell Walden's still there, so nothing against him. But you got a lot of. We'll break down the offense next week, but you got a lot of talent in that backfield. So, oh geez, Jeff, what a joke, huh? Way to get it going, baby. You're in mid-season form already, Jeff. A friend of all the shows. What's up, Jeff?
FSU's played FSU in baseball, Fresno State.
Ooh, there you go. Yeah, but it's not Florida State against Florida State. Okay, whatever. All right, Jeff. All right, enough of that.
Florida State still has a baseball program?
Ooh, I like it. Oh, man.
Their football fans were saying the same thing about us.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Touche.
We got it. But to answer your question fully, I'm just looking forward to I think we had a really good offseason. The roster changed so much that you look at most parts, especially we're going to be looking at the defense, and I just feel a whole lot better than in the front seven and the back end than I did last year. I think last year we were reaching for scenarios, and if he plays this, or now for the first time in the 3 years I've been screaming about it, they're finally moving James Williams up.
That's something we'll definitely.
And I've been screaming about that since day one.
I think we all saw it coming, and eventually it happened. And I think it's the right defensive coordinator too for it.
The days of Louis Oliver and Cam Chancellor and David Fulcher and the 6'4", 6'5" safety are over. They're over. They're more agile now. They're more coverage oriented type of safeties, and I'll tell you, when Pat Surtain his senior year moved him to outside linebacker and then put his hand down a couple of times, I said he'll be like Javon Curse. He's going to be like him because he's and that Javon was a safety in high school and didn't switch to the defensive end until he was in college, but yet he was 6'4", but there's no need for the big safety anymore. This is a different game. But he, with his quickness, his athleticism, he could be a force right where if you move him into the box.
He's going to be scary. Vish, I kind of want to finish with you two real quick on fall camp. We've been hearing, some things on some players that have really kind of stepped up. I know we've all seen the videos of Frank Ladson making a lot of plays so far, which is exciting to see. Look, at the end of the day, the kid was a 5-star prospect coming out. Okay, one of the top receivers in the country in high school and yada, yada, yada. Went to Clemson, didn't pan out, had some injury issues as well. Last year, started to come on. I think he did a lot better than people give him credit for last year. It's just a crappy team. It was a crappy situation all around. So it's tough.
You caught one ball last year, you got credit. So that's
exactly.
That's not fair.
Yeah, no kidding, right? But he did come on a little bit, but the injury bug has given him some issues. And then obviously you see some of the cornerbacks like Devontae Brown making some plays, and word on the street is that Mark Fletcher is kind of running everybody over. And so, you hear some of these things. Malik Bryan is another kid that has been a standout in fall camp so far.
Emory Williams is throwing some dimes.
Emory Williams is throwing some beautiful ball. I mean, so you get a lot of players that are, starting to kind of separate themselves, and you'll see within the next week or two even more separation on that depth chart, which will go into. What does that tell you about, fall camp and how these guys are kind of preparing this year?
Well, it's a reset button, right? Last year was a disaster. A lot of that staff is gone. A lot of those players are gone, and it's a second chance for a lot of these players to kind of. You mentioned some names of guys that struggled last year, so now it's a fresh start for them, and I think what we're seeing is them taking that opportunity, right? Because I think a lot of the players, you mentioned James Williams, like I'm sure he considered the portal after last year went poorly. Kinchins is the man at safety, and he's kind of probably thinking, do I want to be here? But he stuck it out, and looks like he's embracing a new role now. So it leads me to believe there's buy-in here, and these kids are going to work, and it's not going to be a work of art. The talent's just not there yet, and the maturity of the program isn't there yet either. But I think maybe this year, a handful of times, maybe more than a handful, we can say, wow, we played well today. Because we could do that one time last year. That Georgia Tech game was the only time we played well the entire season. Yeah. And so, that's what you want to build off of, you're not going to put 12 masterful performances out there this year. It's just not going to happen. But if you can be good more times than not, that's how you start building back to where, 2-3 years from now, you are competing for conference and national championships. So to me, this is just, it's exciting that the players stuck with it. It speaks to character, and we'll see it when things invariably will have tough games this year. So we'll see how they stick. We'll see how they stick it out through that. It's always easy before the season to be like, yeah, we're bought in, but it is encouraging that we're seeing kind of different players, some new faces stepping up here.
Absolutely. DJ, any thoughts before we get into too deep on fall camp? What kind of your expectation is, early on in camp?
I mean, first off, and this may sound very simplistic, but I hope everybody gets through camp healthy. I mean, there's nothing worse than camp injuries. And, I think obviously, this has felt like a very long offseason, hasn't it? So I'm just excited to see, the new faces combined with the returning players, Cam Kinchins, you guys mentioned, for example. Can he follow up what he did last year? And that is a tall ask, but can he have another good year? Can Tyler Van Dyke put it all together? There's all sorts of these storylines on both sides of the football that should keep us entertained throughout the year. And let's hope by the end of it, we're talking about more positives on the show than negatives.
Big time. And I think that you're going to see that, but it's going to take some time. And I think that they're progressing, and they're moving in the right direction. So, Blue, you mentioned this. You mentioned this right in your closing statements there on fall camp is the buildup of the depth now at certain positions, and this is what we're going to talk about today, right? Is a depth on defense in all positions. I think that if you look at what we had last year compared to what we have this year, you're in a much better spot. You got size, you got strength, you got speed, you got some guys that came in this year new, and you've got some guys that are healthy now again that are going to be back out there. But I think most importantly is you got a new system. You got a new defensive system that's potentially, right, what we all want to see is that's going to allow these players to thrive in new positions, right? So some of these guys are going to be playing in different positions or different, I guess, sets than you would see normally. Coach Lance Guidry is, one of the top defensive coordinators in the country. You saw what he did at Marshall and what he has been able to do with his with his defenses. So I'm really excited to see what he's going to be able to do. I wanted to go and kind of give your too deep on what you think, right? This is your opinion. Forget about anything else. We'll throw everything else out the window because this could change, obviously, from now till the beginning of the season and moving forward, which is always cool to see because we kind of want to see, what happens, after we say who we think our too deep is and then who really is going to be your starter and your second guy coming in and so on and so forth. So who do you think your too deep is? We'll start, at the safety position and work our way into the front seven and the defensive line. What are you thinking, Blue? Give me your you're too deep on at each position?
Well, I think Kinchins and probably Markeith Williams. If they take James Williams and do what they said, they haven't really done it full time, but I would say that Markeith Williams has got a chance, at a safety spot.
So are these your starters? These your ones?
Well, Cam Kinchins will be a starter.
Yeah.
And it all depends what they do with James.
Going out on a limb there.
Huh?
Going out on a limb there. First team All-American. Cornerback is going to start. Are we sure?
Well, I'm just saying more with James Williams.
Yeah.
If he moves down, then I think it'll be Cam Kinchins and probably Markeith Williams.
Okay. And who's behind those two?
I think Caleb Spencer will probably jump into it. He's very athletic, and he's a kid that he's used to playing linebacker, but he could hit. I think that at the safety position, I think Brian Ballum has had a good offseason. I think he'd be one of the guys that I'd look at.
I think that's a guy that could have potentially transferred out too and stuck with it also. So
yeah, I'm a big fan of Brian Ballins. I think if James Williams moves in the box more, I don't think it's going to be full time. I think he'll split.
Not yet. I think eventually maybe, but maybe.
I think Ballum has a good opportunity to benefit from that.
What are you thinking at cornerback? You've got a lot of
Wait. Before we do that, shout out to Andres for his Pac-12 pun. I did notice it was funny.
I think that Jaden Davis will probably, and he and Darryl Porter will probably be in there at the corners. I also think that if they, in the nickel, I think that the Corey Couch will be, one to look at. Jaden Harris. And then, some of the younger guys, it's just, I think that we're not going to, I think if we convene again in 10 days, the things will be changed. And
that's fine. That's why I want it to be who you think. It doesn't matter. I know things are going to change, so it's not a big deal. But who you think is going to be who your too deep is right now, if you had to. So.
Well, I think Jaden Davis definitely is going to be in there. He's got way too much experience.
Yeah.
And I think Darryl Porter proved himself in the offseason, in the spring. To be in the too deep, maybe at the right corner. The nickel position is going to be interesting because I think the Corey Couch, you can't leave him out.
Right. From what I hear, he's put on some weight. He's gotten a little bit bigger, and he's gotten better. Yeah, he's gotten.
And
better.
the kid from Vanderbilt.
Jadeus Richard.
Yeah, I think he's going to be in there. You got to go with the experienced guys, and I think when things start ironing out over the next week to 10 days, you're going to, all those kids that have the experience in playing time, like a Jaden Davis, will kind of show that they belong more so than some of the younger kids, I think. But
separation. Yep. Big time. I'm with you on that. What are you thinking at the linebacker position? Is this one kind of an easy one? Let's say they're playing with a nickel, right? With their star, I guess is what they're calling it.
So it's two.
You got two linebackers. Yeah.
Well, that I think Wesley Besant and what's his name, Francisco Maragoa, and then Corey Flagg, and maybe the kid KG Cloyd.
Yeah. I like that. I like your too deep on that. That's a good one. Now here's the one that that's gonna trick some people because I mean you've got some talent there, man. The end position. So you've got obviously the left end and the right end and right end.
Well.
Who are your guys there?
I think the left end will probably be Messador and Ruben Bain.
Yeah.
Because Ruben's, you can't keep him on the bench. And then I think Nigel Lee Kelly and Jafari Harvey are probably the two deep on the other side.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's just my opinion.
I think it's hard to go against that.
Because Cyrus Moss is still a little bit, I mean, he's going to play, but he's still light in the ass for.
Yeah.
And then in the middle, obviously, you got Leonard Taylor and I think Harrison Hunt probably at the left side. And then the right side, I mean, I'm a big Dean fan, and it'll be between Ahmad Moten and Thomas Gore, I think.
Yep. No, that's good. That's solid right there. That's solid. DJ, talk to me, man. What are you thinking on your 2D for defense? We'll start off with the corners as well. With the safeties, I'm sorry, with the safeties.
Safeties, probably Cameron Kitchens, and then again, depending on what they do with James Williams, Markeith Williams, I'd put at the safeties. I mean, obviously you can't leave Cameron Kitchens out, and then Markeith Williams is very interesting player, very athletic, so I could see him slotting in there. And then want to go corners next?
Yeah. Go. Yeah. We'll do 3, right? You can use a star as one of your corners as well.
Corner is interesting because, you know, Daryl Porter Jr. played really well this spring, especially in the spring game. But I think it's going to be probably Porter Jr. and then Devontae Brown potentially. I mean, the one thing about this year that I will say that we didn't have last year is a little bit more depth at the corner position. Yeah. We got the transfer portal addition in Porter Jr. and things like that, but we didn't have necessarily a ton of viable depth. And then looking at the middle linebacker position, we were talking about this a little bit off air. Francisco Malgoa or Corey Flagg. I mean, I would probably pencil in Francisco as a starter at middle linebacker, and then Wesley Saints at the weak side linebacker, and then going up the rest of the depth chart, probably Nigel Lee Kelly on the right defensive end, although Jafari Harvey played well last year. So, and then I feel like the left side defensive end is a little bit more, a little bit more solidified. Ruben Bain is going to be an excellent player, but there's still, development. He is a freshman. So for now, Akeem Mesidor, and then Leonard Taylor at defensive tackle, along with Jared Harrison Hunt, I would have to say.
Oh, nice. Okay. So no, Branson Dean is behind them.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice. Interesting. All right. Vish, what are you thinking, man, on defense?
Yeah, I'm not just going to repeat what everyone just said. So, because it's just going to get repetition.
Yeah, we're limited.
I will say.
I got some differences for you.
I'm just going to call.
Oh, you do? You have some differences?
Oh yeah.
No, I'm going to call out the differences, but I'm not going to go through each one and be like, oh, the same as them. So the one thing I would think, I don't think James Williams is going to start at linebacker or anything to start the year, and so I think he'll be starting at safety. And the other thing is, when we were going through these, we had 3 corners, 2 safeties, 2 linebackers. Kind of we did that. So that means if he's moving out of safety, who's coming off the field, right? Because he's playing. He's not moving in the box to be the third string nickel linebacker or something.
Well, I think it's all just going to depend on situation, right?
Right. So that's where I was going with this. So I think where we'll see him more move in the box is that middle yardage where you don't quite want to put 3 cornerbacks on the field, but you also don't want 3 linebackers.
Like 35,
cover, that kind of stuff. You might want to cover a slot receiver, but also be a little bit strong against the run. I think that's where we're likely to see him play there. But I think mostly he'll still be at safety next to Kitchen. So I think those 2, and then like I said earlier, I'm a fan of Brian Ballum. I think he'll play quite a bit. Corner, I think we covered. I think the defensive line is kind of the interesting one because I think Leonard Taylor and Mesidor are definitely starting. Everything else is kind of up in the air because we brought in Branson Dean, Thomas Gore. Harrison Hunt has played a lot here. He's very versatile. You can kind of put him in multiple positions. Yep. Like how you shake those 3 out kind of for one spot. We haven't even talked about Lichtenstein yet, who I'm assuming is expecting to play some. So there's just a lot. It's like Leonard Taylor and then someone next to him. And then obviously I think everyone's a big fan of Nigel Lee Kelly, but Jafari Harvey has a lot of snaps here as well. So that'll be an interesting competition. I think Ruben Bain will get on the field, but I think it's probably – he's definitely not going to take Mesidor's spot. If you take someone's spot, it's going to be the other end. Right. I think one of the things that, as bad as we were last year, Mesidor and Kinchins are 2 of the best defensive players in the ACC. So they're playing. Agree. And then the other thing, Blue mentioned Cyrus Moss, let's just say his petite physique at this point. I do think there is room, especially for defensive ends, to come in third and medium, third and long as pass rushers. We're kind of sure they're not going to run the ball and come off the edge. So I think yeah, and I think there's a package for him there because despite him being needing to probably build out a little bit to be an every down player, he gets after the quarterback. Yeah. And I think in those obvious passing situations, it's a good opportunity to give someone else a rest too and just have him go hit the quarterback. So I think he'll play some.
And I hope he changes that number 39. That thing is ugly.
Why are you getting against 39?
Yeah, bro. I don't like that number. That's not a good number for a defensive end. Come on.
I mean, all these numbers are screwed up. What are we talking about? You got players wearing number 0. I mean,
well, or 00, but that's by choice. That's kind
of. What is it? You think he's like, give me 39? You don't think he asked for 39?
No, definitely not. Who asked for 39? Nobody asked for number 39.
Jazz, tell us where 39 hurt you.
It just hurts.
It's just a number.
You look at
it.
Hey,
a Dolphin player would die for 39.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, you got against Larry Zonka.
Not a fan. Not a fan of the 39. All right. Let's
see Jazz's radical departure from our duty.
It's not so radical, but look, I think it's simple at safety. It's James Williams and Cam Kitchen all the way, right? Riding with that. Where I kind of differ is, and as much as I like Brian Bingham because I think he is a very, very good player, and so is Caleb Spencer. For me, it's Markeith Williams, and I've seen and heard how good Jaden Harris is at the safety position, and he's the guy that I think is going to back up some of these guys too. I think he's that talented where he can play at the corner and he can play safety. So I think you're going to see him in the 2 deep at safety with Markeith Williams. I think Markeith Williams right now knows the defense a little bit better, or at least knows that position a little bit better than a lot of the guys, behind James Williams and Cam Kitchen. He's probably the most talented one. But Jaden Harris is a ball hawk. He's all over the place. So I like Jaden Harris as the backup there at the corner position. This is a tough one because if you think about it, not only did we bring in Jadaeus Richard, but we also brought in what's the kid, Demetrius Freeney, who's another really good player. You bring in guys, you've got the guys that have been there for a while, like, Dara Porter's been there a couple years now. Corey Couch has been there for a while. Devontae, you got Devontae and Damari Brown. Damari Brown's going to push for time too. He's that talented, right? He's probably going to end up being one of your better corners.
Experience too.
Yeah, well, Devontae. So I love Devontae. I think Devontae on one side is a lock. And you're probably, as of right now, it's a toss-up for me between Darryl Porter and Jadaeus Richard as their starting corner. Hearing some really good things about Jadaeus Richard recently in fall camp that leads me to believe that he is really, really pushing for that starting position. But it's hard to take it away. I know, DJ, you mentioned this, how good of a spring Darryl Porter had. And so I'm going to give the edge to Darryl Porter right now, but him and Richard are going to split that time there. At the star, I know I mentioned him as a backup safety. I think that Jaden Harris kind of fits the mold of a great, of a star, right? He's big enough to play safety. He's also quick enough to play corner. So I think it's a perfect combination, Vish, for what you were talking about in those short yardage situations where you don't want to take a guy that's athletic enough like that to, get off the field. And if you keep James Williams back there, Jaden Harris, I think, is a great option to kind of put as your striker. But, Blue, you also mentioned to Corey Couch, right? He's been here for what seems like 6 years now. He's had his up and downs. He's a little inconsistent, and you saw it. His freshman year was really good. Sophomore year, he was kind of down. Junior year,
he just grew. That's what you said. I think he's grown and gotten bigger and thicker. So
I think he's going to have a say at that star position as well. So you're probably going to see some to Corey Couch in the middle along with Jaden Harris. I'm going to give the nod to Jaden Harris right now, but it could be to Corey Couch. He's talented. He knows the position. He's smart. And if he's gotten a little bit bigger, I like that. So I can see that happening. But so let's just say this, right? He'll be my 2 deep at the star. And then I've got behind Devontae, I've got I guess you could put his brother. You could put Damari Brown back there. But Demetrius Freeney is another guy that they don't I'm looking at that roster thing here. They don't have him there, so I like Demetrius Freeney as well as another guy that can come in and get some playing time. He was rated the number 2 cornerback in all of JUCO. And then you've got his counterpart that might end up at Miami next year. But those are my guys there. At linebacker, so the linebacker position, for me, it's kind of chalk right now with Wes at the weak side and Kiko Malgoa as your middle linebacker. However, Wesley better not slack off because KJ Cloyd is coming for him. That's all I'm saying. KJ Cloyd has got all the speed in the world. He's a 4.3, 4.4 guy. He's 235 pounds, big kid, 6'2", 6'3". He's a big kid, a talented player, transfer portal kid coming in.
Coming off an injury, though.
He is coming off an injury, but from what I understand, he's fully healthy and he's kicking ass. So I would tell Wes to make sure he stays on his P's and Q's because it's KJ Cloyd is coming for that. And then on the other side, as my 2 deep guy, it's hard to move. It's hard to get Corey Flagg out of there. He's been one of our more consistently
leading tackler 2 years in a row.
Yeah, he can play, man.
Look at Vish. Vish, he always has that snicker when I talk about it.
No, I mean he's produced.
He's produced, right? So a guy that can produce as your 2 deep, not bad, right? But
2 deep is fine. Should not be 1 deep.
Just as much as I think KJ Cloyd is coming for Wes, Malik Bryant is coming for that spot as well on the other
Absolutely.
side. He's talented, man. He's a big kid.
Got a lot to learn, but he's
he does. But it's a kind of kid that he's talented enough where if he gets it, he's gonna play early. I know you've got some guys like Bobby Washington is another kid who's fighting. Marcelius Pullman, Popo
Aguirre.
Popo Aguirre. So this is I love our linebacker depth. I think that there's some talented guys. I know they're young, but there's some really talented guys behind the 2 deep right now, which is KJ Cloyd and Corey Flagg are probably your 2 deep, and then Wes and Kiko starting. At the defensive line, for me, this is another one where it's Mesidor and Nigel Lee Kelly. So Nigel Lee Kelly is one of those guys, as good as Jafari Harvey has been, because he's shown that he can rush the quarterback. He doesn't make a ton of mistakes, but he doesn't flash like these wow plays as much as you'd like him to from the edge either. Nigel Lee Kelly is a whole different monster. Like that kid, I think could potentially be a superstar first round talent here at UM. Nigel Lee Kelly is so damn good. It's going to be hard to keep him off the field. I think those are your 2 bookends with Mesidor and Nigel Lee Kelly. As all of you have mentioned, Ruben Bain has a little bit to learn, but he's just as talented as all of them. And we've seen how good he is. It's going to be hard to keep him off the field, so you're going to see him in a lot of packages. Excuse me. You're going to see him in a lot of packages, and you're going to see guys like Harvey, Cyrus Moss. So right now, I guess my 2 deep would definitely be Mesidor and Kelly, and then you've got Bain and Harvey behind them. You've got some talent there. Okay, you've got some talented guys that are coming in. What's this kid that's coming in that's playing the edge as well? Jeez, a freshman kid. I can't
Wade.
Huh?
Wade?
Yeah, Wayne. Wayne? Yeah, Jaden Wayne.
Yeah, Jaden Wayne.
So he's another talented kid. I still think he's got a year or 2 before he cracks the.
Jason Taylor likes him a lot, though.
But he's good. He's very talented.
Yeah.
Jaden Wayne's another kid that's gonna have something to say. But
he's long. He's got long arms. He's
as an edge guy, I think he's gonna be great. In the middle, it's Leonard Taylor. Obviously, look, the biggest thing with Leonard Taylor is that he flashes how absolutely incredible he is. Right, that's why he's on a lot of people's boards as a potential first-round pick this year, as a All-American, a preseason All-American, along with Cam Kitchens. But
he hasn't had this talent and depth around him.
Right, and that's another thing that might help him, right? Kind of grow and take that next step. And
it helps.
But Blue, you know how talented, right? He's probably the most talented guy on this defensive side from Cam Kitchens. He's just got to put it together on a consistent basis and do it time in and time out. You see sometimes where he goes out there and he is unblockable. and then you see sometimes
Yeah.
where he takes a couple of plays off. And so
But they could double team him last year. They're not going to be able to do that this year. There's too much other playmakers to worry about. But as well as I do, from a baseball analogy, if you're a pitcher who gives up, a lot of fly balls and stuff, if you have a good center fielder who goes and gets it, then it makes your job a lot easier, and you make the team look better. And I think the thing about HB Blades, if you remember back in the day, he was an okay linebacker, but because he had people around him in the NFL and in college that would filter the plays towards him, he was a really good tackler. And I think in Leonard Taylor's case, he's going to benefit from the fact that they're not going to be scheming against him, because they won't be able to. Then they'll get buried by some, another player in the middle. So,
this is why.
But I understand what you said about being more consistent.
Absolutely, and that's why the guy next to him is so important. That's why I think it's Branson Dean. I think that they brought him in for a reason, right? They brought him in, a veteran guy who's a good player, a really good defensive tackle. Played in a big Power 5 school, and so he's going to come down here, and I think he's going to plug some holes. I love him, but I'm going to kind of flip it a little bit behind those two, right? I think it's 100%. Another one that's not as consistent as he should be, because he's very talented, is Jared Harrison Hunt, right? That's another kid that he flashes. He's flashed the last couple of years how good he can really be. But behind Branson Dean, I know a lot of people say, well, we brought in Thomas Gore. He must be really good from Georgia State. I'm not completely sold on him yet. I think it's Ahmad Moten. I think it's Ahmad Moten behind Branson Dean. I think Ahmad Moten is going to have a hell of a year this year. I think you're going to see him, really be a big-time guy. And I wouldn't put it past the newcomer, Joshua Horton. He is a mammoth. He is a mammoth of a man. He's 6'6", 300 pounds. He can dunk. That's the type of guy that I want in the middle of this defensive line. So he's still young. He is a freshman, so he's got some learning to do. But I think that's a guy that's going to come in. Lichtenstein is going to get he's going to get some PT. He's a veteran. He's been here for 28 years, like Cam McCormick has at tight end. He's been playing college football for that long.
Cam McCormick, the junior.
Yeah, the junior. The 8th junior. So he's been around for a while. So his leadership and his experience is probably going to get him in the lineup, right? So he didn't play terrible when he was in the lineup last year until he got hurt. But the point is, I think that if we're looking at the two deep right now, I'm going to go Harrison Hunt behind LT, and then Ahmad Moten behind Branson Dean. Those are my guys. I think they're going to get.
So let me ask you a question on that then. We obviously went and got Thomas Gore, and Moten was already on the team. So do you think he just improved to the point that – because clearly if they thought that Moten was that dude, I don't know if they go and get Thomas Gore.
Not necessarily. I mean, you see them go and get guys at other positions, like the wide receiver position, just for depth. You got to add depth to all the positions. And I think what they saw in Gore, they saw enough of him to say, this is a guy that could add some depth. I don't know if I see it that way. I mean, he's small, man. Thomas Gore is small, so he's going to have to do it other ways. But I think they're two different players, too. I think Ahmad Moten, bigger kids, 6'4", 305, 310.
Like you're talking about not even in the two deep. In general, if you go get an experienced transfer, you expect them to at least be in the two deep.
Well, they did that with a couple other guys last year and the year before, and those guys didn't pan out. That's what I'm saying, right?
No, maybe he won't pan out at all. Like that,
yeah,
I can understand that. I'm just curious where you thought,
that's my thought process.
Where you thought he was related to expectations.
I could be wrong. Gore could come in and could be Frank Gore on the defensive tackle, as a defensive tackle. But I think that Ahmad Moten is going to be that dude. And I think that he just needed some development. He needed to be with the right guys, and being with Joe Salavea for a couple of years and now being with Jason Taylor for a couple of years, I think is going to help him elevate to that next level. I think Gore's still going to be solid, right? He's got the right coaching and the right team around him. But I think if you're looking for a guy that's going to be more consistent, it's going to be a guy that could come in and even take time from Branson Dean on a normal level, on a regular basis, is Ahmad Moten, if you ask me. And then you got to watch for it, like I said, Josh Horton behind him who's really talented as well. He might be one of the most talented guys on this team on defensive tackle. He's just young. He's a freshman, so I think he just got here. So it's going to be tough. And again, this could change, and the most important thing is, to me, that DJ mentioned earlier is health. You got to keep these guys healthy. You got to take care of them. And if you do that, this team could be, a decent team. I think that at the end of the day, the defense is definitely gonna help this team be a little better than maybe they should be, I guess. But it's gonna be interesting to see how they work out those two deep. As of right now, it's all fluid. You know how it is, so it could change. But I think I like everybody's two deep so far. So, what did Terry say here? Bring back the old school attitude. Forget about the other. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, obviously I think that's why they brought in Mario and Moss.
Well, our first game's against Miami, so double meeting there.
Yeah,
one game at a time. Worry about Miami. Shout out to Poke, friend of the network.
Sure. Yes, sir. Poke, baby. Hope it's going real well over there coaching baseball.
And then I'll just answer this for the group. No one gives a shit.
No, I think that's a troll.
I know. I gave him his answer. I gave him what he was looking for. Didn't even spell the kid's name right.
Truth is, nobody does care.
No one gives a shit.
Yeah. Blue, what you got coming up? What you got going on, man? Are you gonna be at Canes Fest with me or what?
Is that this week?
That's this weekend. This Saturday morning.
Believe it or not, we have referee scrimmage, 8 teams, Gibbons, Chaminade. So I'm gonna
nice.
And then at night, they have the Super 60 Palm Beach players, and that includes a lot of the Palm Beach kids that Miami's after. The kids from Cardinal Newman and Ricky Knight and people like that. So,
speaking of kids that Miami's after, did you notice at the barbecue who showed up coming back all the way from Ohio?
Oh, I saw that.
Elias Rudolph, man, ended up.
Yeah,
it's so crazy, right? So he transferred to Deerfield, then transfers back up to Ohio, and a lot of people thought, yeah, he's a lock. He's going to Michigan, or he's going to.
Well, he's committed to Michigan.
Yeah. But he showed up to the barbecue, man, and that's
maybe he's just hungry. Who knows? You never know. If
you fly 3 hours to
you figure they got food. They got food up there somewhere. I'm just assuming they're feeding a whole bunch of people up there.
But.
Yeah, you never know. That would be a nice little get. And like I said, if they get him, credit Mirabal that day for stepping up.
I will say you can't
Jason Taylor had been long gone, and he figured, you know what?
Yeah. You can't get a good Cuban coffee outside of Miami, so maybe you just had the ish. I've tried. It doesn't.
Yeah.
You need a real Cuban making it, or it doesn't work.
Have you ever been to that place, Jazz, called Sandwich?
Yes. Yeah.
That's who Mirabal says has the best Cuban
sandwich. Yeah, that's what they say.
I think Sarosi does, but that's okay.
Sarosi is I got a Sarosi across the street from me, man. Don't make me go over there right now. You're lucky it's closed. It's probably closed right now.
Otherwise, we get Jazz in the drive-thru again. Or
yep. Sarosi subs are.
That's Taco Bell drive-thru.
Get that too. So. Yeah, man. Next week we'll have offense. We'll do some offense. Gotcha, man. Very cool. Very cool. We'll do some offensive breakdown. We'll talk some recruiting as well. There's still some big names: Kamarion Franklin, Aiden Breland, Elias Rudolph. Although he's committed to Michigan. Listen, we did it last year with Collins at Chimpong, right?
That's right.
We haven't even mentioned, but he's a guy that's going to take some time to develop. So. Crazier things have happened, and I know you mentioned guys like Ricky Knight and some other players. Trevor Jackson is another kid to look out for, that quarterback.
He's at Jones now.
Yeah, Trevor Jackson is.
Yeah, he transferred from West Orange.
Right. Gotcha. So that's a guy to keep an eye on. So and Blue, we'll definitely get some feedback on that tournament, and we'll talk a little bit about Canes Fest next week on Monday as well. If you guys, definitely Poke, link up, and I'll be out at Canes Fest. I'll be the only one because nobody else, Bishop won't be there or DJ, but I'll be out there. So make sure.
Maybe Melissa will be with you.
Yeah, maybe Mel. Maybe Mel will come.
Oh, she was talking about going. I don't know if she has to work. She asked me if I was going, which
Gotcha.
obviously not. But
We'll see.
Hey, if you guys pay for the plane tickets, we'll head down there.
You stop it. You're not going to King.
Actually, even if you play for the plane ticket, I go to Miami too much as it is. I can't start going for this type of stuff too.
Now we're looking forward to that Boston College party at your house. We're all
You guys won't even be there. You guys are too afraid of the cold. Who are you kidding?
we show up and everything. You better provide.
You better.
I'll show up to Miami next year. I've been meaning to go down to Florida, especially around that time of year. It gets cold.
Well, it's a
I don't
good
want
time
any
for
part
you
of
to
it.
go.
Well, we don't know what time of year. It might be like in September next year. You don't know.
Yeah, right.
I mean, true, yeah.
Yeah, then you're screwed.
Fair
either
enough.
way. It's hot as hell, anyways. But
Next Monday, the debut of the Boston Fan. So we'll have the oscillating fan going in DJ's house.
yeah, DJ, you gotta turn that fan on.
I gotta
man.
turn it on just for blue.
What's
Just for
DJ
blue.
without the fan? Come on now.
I'm nothing without the fan. The fan made me.
I go 12 months a year with mine on. So
Yeah, no, this one's not coming off here either. So I get it. Anyways, great show tonight, fellas. Make
Hey,
sure.
before we wrap, you want to do price picks?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. What the hell?
Do the sponsor and all that stuff.
Shout out to our sponsor, PricePicks.com. Check them out. Why don't you log in? Your first login, they will match your initial deposit up to $100 with the code 5 FIVE. It's on PricePicks.com. It's real simple. Choose anywhere between 2 to 5 players. Choose the over under on their individual categories and win some money. You can choose players from different teams, from different leagues. You can go from the Major League Baseball to the NFL to the NBA, Formula One, and college football. You name it, they got it on there. Make sure you go check them out at PricePicks.com. Excuse me, code word 5 FIVE, and they will match your initial deposit up to $100. Excuse me. Check them out, PricePicks.com.
I think we need to bring Manscaped back. I could have done a ringing endorsement when I went for my procedure a couple of weeks ago.
We should,
And,
you know what?
You know what? A couple of weeks ago was right in the middle of smooth sack summer too. We had the opportunity there.
I know, man. Listen, I don't know about you, but it's still smooth sack summer, man.
Tell Ethan to get it back.
He's got to get it together. We'll see you guys at Canes Fest. If not, make sure you follow us on Twitter at 6ringscanes. And, of course, every Monday night here at 8:30 p.m. on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. Make sure you click and subscribe and check us out. We've got buckets coming up this week.
Yeah, Thursday. Both the men's and women's team are playing scrimmages in Europe, so we'll be talking
That's
about some of that.
That's right. You got some good basketball there, and we'll hit you up. We'll hit you up with that, and then on Monday we're back at it again, talking offense and fall camp with a little recruiting as well. So make sure you stick around. See you guys later. Have a good night.
The 6 Rig Kane Show. Yeah. The 6 Rig Kane Show. Yeah. The 6 Rings Kane Show. You know.